All right, guys, our recording has started. Good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to our Student Success Series. This is session 3 of that success series. For those of you who missed the first 2 sessions, you truly missed a treat. We talked about 2 very good topics. However, because we want our students to be successful, those resources will be available to you. And at the end of this presentation, I will show you how to access the resources that you may have missed. So don't worry, you can go back and watch those videos if you did miss them. But on today, we have Ms. Samoa Hempfling, who is our student success coach here at the Lacombe location. Samoa comes with a vast background in higher education from multiple institutions. Most recently, she was at UNO before she joined the North Shore family. And we're excited to hear from her today. She's going to be speaking about learning styles. You know, as college students coming from various backgrounds and various abilities and strengths, each of you has a learning style that is most effective for you. And so I would encourage you all to really take heed to the presentation and learn a little bit more about learning styles, and also utilize the resources that she will point to you to kind of help you figure out if you don't know what your learning style is. There are some resources that can help you figure that out. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to Ms. Samoa to begin her presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Montgomery. First of all, welcome to everyone. On a personal note, I did not find out my learning style till I was probably in my sophomore year of college. And so once I figured it out, things got a whole lot easier for me. So I'm hoping that this will help you figure out things for yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to go through this PowerPoint. Okay, so learning styles, understanding the method that works best for you. So an overview of learning, we're gonna go through the 3 main styles of learning, which are visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Now, as a visual learner, you may learn through seeing. So visual learners understand best when information is presented through charts, diagrams, pictures, maps, slides, handouts, and videos. An auditory learner, as you may have guessed, learns through hearing. So auditory learners understand best when information is presented through tapes, through lectures, or discussion. The kinesthetic learner, or the tactile learner, learns through movement. Now, tactile learners, they understand best when information is presented through hands-on experiences. Now, if you're a visual learner, you may wonder if this is your learning style and how do you know? Well, maybe you visualize words as you spell. Maybe you remember faces better than names. You're distracted by movement or untidiness. You have a good sense of direction. You prefer face-to-face meetings. You understand maps, charts, and diagrams. Also, you may not like to speak in front of groups. You may give one-word answers or sometimes incomplete sentences. You prefer a visual arts class to a music class. You can appear to daydream during lectures. You may often need questions repeated. Perhaps you watch others when instructions are given so that you can follow their lead. As an auditory learner, you may wonder if this is your learning style. Well, some keys may be, you may sound out words when you spell. You remember names and conversations better than faces. You're distracted by noises. You prefer verbal instructions to maps or diagrams. You prefer talking on the phone to in-person meetings. Maybe you talk, hum, or sing to yourself often. You probably don't like to sketch or draw. It may look like your head is on the table when you're writing. Auditory learners are usually very talkative, and they tend to listen to movies instead of actually watching them. They can confuse words that look similar, and they may become bored when problems are done silently in class. Now, for the kinesthetic and tactile learner, if this is you, you might write out words when you spell until they seem correct. Maybe you remember shared activities rather than names and faces. You're distracted by activity. You prefer to figure things out as you go. You prefer meeting people while doing an activity. You enjoy putting things together and taking them apart. You may find it hard to sit still for long periods of time. You may enjoy working with tools. You often chew gum or snack while you're studying. You don't like to read directions, but you would rather do the task. Perhaps you play with keys or coins while they're in your pockets. You're good at working and solving puzzles. You remember things by writing them down several times. You think better when you're free to move about the room. So, you may wonder, where do you fit in? You might fit in multiple places that we just discussed. So, learning styles are not one size fits all. They can vary on the day, the content, and a variety of other factors. So, auditory learners make up about 30% of the population, and visual learners make up 65%. But the kinesthetic learners, they only make up 5%. So, if you see yourself in more than one category, you're probably correct. More than likely, no one is just one. Again, it depends on the day. And most students have a main style that works for them. So what we have here are a couple of learning assessments. You can Google this search, but here are some of the top 3 that you can go and find out what your main learning style is. So you may ask, what do you do with this information now that you've kind of seen yourself? So some classroom or study strategies for the visual learner. Try to sit in the front of the class. Take detailed notes using diagrams, charts, or mapping. Choose a study space that's free of clutter. Ask your instructor for all diagrams and charts if they're not already provided. Look at the speakers while they're talking to stay focused. Recopy your notes because rewriting helps recalling. Work in a quiet space. And before reading an assignment, set a specific study goal, write that down, and post it in front of you. For auditory learners, classroom and study strategies might be to make an audio recording with the permission of your instructor. Then go back and listen to that audio recording or assignment. Make up songs or rhymes to remember key concepts. Study in a quiet space so that you aren't distracted by noise. Form a discussion or study group. Read tests aloud when possible. Study with a friend so you can talk and hear the information. Recite quotes, lists, dates out loud. After reading a section, summarize it out loud. Use a color or graphic symbols to highlight main ideas. Use flashcards when reciting words and definitions. Again, read out loud whenever possible. For the kinesthetic and tactile learner, attend any extra classes that are offered through labs. Space your classes throughout the day so that you have time between each class to move about. Use rhythm, beat, music to remember key concepts. Study in a place away from distracting activities. Make a model to demonstrate those key concepts. Take frequent breaks as needed. To memorize, pace or walk around while reciting things to yourself using index cards. When memorizing information, close your eyes. Write the information in the air or on a surface with your finger. Organize your information into charts, graphs, and models. So some other study techniques that you may already use or have heard of is a little white noise in the background to make a personalized study guide, study buddies, to create a physical calendar, frequent breaks, to become a teacher to other students, flashcards, concept maps, and of course, a little music can go a long way. So some of the questions that I would like to pose to you are, what strategies do you have? What have you found that works for you? What have you found that doesn't work? And what do you think you might try in the future? So here's a little information of where I got some of the things that I went over, but I would really like to pose to everyone, what are some strategies that you have used that you found works and what does not work? But I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that we can have a bit of discussion. And feel free to chat or to raise your hand. You can use the chat box, of course, or raise your hand. See, everybody's talking at once. Don't be shy.
I couldn't find the raise hand thing, but I know for me, because I'm more of a I guess I'm kind of like a mixture. So I like visual hands-on, but I prefer hands-on mostly. So the walking around I actually really have to do. So I learned that I need to walk around and get, I don't know if it's jitters or what it is, out and then say it out loud so that I can hear myself saying it. And I kind of, that works for me.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
No problem.
All right, I see that it looks like KB has their hand raised.
Yes, I can say for me, especially these last couple semesters, it's been hard because I actually enjoy the classroom setting because I'm a audio learner, but also kinesthetic. So I like to hear what the instructor is saying, but I also need the background noise of perhaps someone in class chatting in the back of the class, different sounds in the classroom, and I have to have a lot going on. I know that's kind of odd, but that makes the most sense for me because then I pick up on the other noises, but I'm able to recall easily in the background what the instructor was saying. So being out of the classroom, it was kind of hard. It's been hard for me these semesters because I need all of that distraction to make it seem easier for me. It's kind of weird, but it makes sense in my own little crazy way.
KB, that's not strange at all. To be perfectly honest, I have to have background noise as well. To give you the visual of how I see it, if I don't have some type of visual, some type of auditory something happening behind me, it ends up being like a slasher movie. Like I think there's somebody gonna come up behind me at any given moment and I'm easily distracted then if there's complete silence. So I have to have something, a fan going or some white noise. So that is not odd at all. Thank you for sharing that.
I think a lot of times, just to add to that, individuals who have, especially large families, um, they're used to having a lot of noise and a lot of things going on around them. So silence is like abnormal. It's like, I can't function this way because it's just absolutely abnormal to me. And so many people, they function better in chaos. And another thing is your learning style will adjust sometimes as you grow and with time, because right now where I am personally, I'm in that I need a lot going on around me. The noise, because I have a 3-year-old, about to be 3-year-old. So she is constantly in the background. Mommy this, doing this, Paw Patrol is going on and Mickey Mouse is going on and all of these different things are going on in the background. So now I'm used to hearing that in the background and being able to zone in on what I need to get accomplished. But previously I grew up in a household where I was the only child. So I was used to being in an environment that was not a whole lot of distraction. So when I was in, undergrad and working on my master's, it had to be dead silent. Like I couldn't even have music playing in the background. When I went to my terminal degree, I had to have something going on in the background because my life had changed. And so your learning style that works for you will sometimes change as your stages of life change. So don't get nailed down and say, and that's really in anything in life, and nail down and say, this is exactly who I am and this is what will always work. Because sometimes you know, you will have to make adjustments. And that's why it's important that you know about all of the styles so you can kind of shift as needed.
And it looks like in the chat, a lot of people utilize flashcards quite a bit. We have a number of hands-on learners.
Outline, somebody put that they use outline, which is excellent. Outlines really help, especially when you're writing papers and different things like that, to kind of help you to get your thoughts together. Just to kind of bullet point outline, this is kind of where I want to go. These are my topics. And then you're just trying to fill in. So that's a very good technique as well.
We have one here.
In the chat, I'm going to go ahead and put the links that I have.
I think Jennifer, did you say you had a question in the room?
Yeah, I have a student who has a question, please. I don't have a question. I was just going to say that I actually use all three of the learning styles. I learn better in the class, and I like the class interaction. It makes it a little complicated when you're at home, but we're trying to make the best of it. But I have learned that I actually have a little out of every category that I used in my learning.
Yeah, and we find that, and I'll be honest with you, with the style of the type of programs that we offer at our college, a good bit of our students that come here feel more comfortable in a in-person environment, in a hands-on environment. That does change though as your degree progresses, as you, let's say, transition to a bachelor's degree or decide you want to do your master's or your doctoral degree, the opportunities for that in-person learning significantly decreases. And so, you know, while this time, and I've talked with so many students about this here recently, this time is like kind of, you guys are getting like a pre-training for some of the things that you're going to be exposed to if you plan to continue your education. This is really stretching you all to have to make some adjustments that don't really feel comfortable, but I'm telling you, will benefit you as you continue to progress, because it was amazing to me. The further I went in my education, the less amount of time in class I spent. And so, you know, just keeping that in mind, using this opportunity, though it's uncomfortable for all of us, to say, you know what, let me make the best of this and let me adjust my learning style to fit this environment. So that way, if you encounter this again, when you don't really, you know, in another situation where you don't have a choice because that's the only way the program offers it, or that's the only way it works around your work schedule, you're able to adjust better because you've experienced it before. But yeah, if you're, and I prefer to be in the classroom as well. I've always preferred that, but every time I ran into several classes that I did not have a choice. And so I had to make that adjustment and still be able to perform. And the way that I studied, the way I prepared, had to adjust for that format. Was it always easy? Absolutely not. But make sure you also are utilizing your resources based on your style. You know, if you are a visual learner, then you need to be pulling from resources that will help you in that area. If you're auditory, you know, sometimes it's a matter of, like, you guys are doing these virtual meetings, recording, you know, getting the recording and just listening to it, letting it play back to you will help you sometimes to pick it up versus you just watching the video. So there are several things you can do to kind of accommodate and still be successful, even though it's not the ideal, you know, situation. But thank you so much for your feedback. Any other questions? We got any hands raised?
Oh, we got hands up. Yes.
And that's what I'm trying to.
Oh, there's a lot of people talking. Yeah, because Demaria Young looks like she has hers down.
I see Haley. Go ahead and ask me some more. Your question.
For me, since I do have pretty bad ADHD, I like to have something in my hand, like a pen to click when I'm learning. If I'm like working on a piece of paper, I'm doing like an essay, I have to have something to do with my other hand. But if I'm like learning face to face and we're not doing a paper, I have to be able to have my hands on something. I have to be able to, in order for me to focus, I have to distract myself slightly with it, with another stimulant. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
it does.
It helps me. and it gets me in trouble a lot in class, I'm not gonna lie. Gotten into a lot of trouble with that, but that's the best way I can learn, is just paying attention, but also my like fidgeting with something. It's just how it works for me.
You're the reason why fidget spinners, those spinners were created. Because that's
Right
what it
there.
was for. It's for, there you go. See, it's to help you. You know, I'll never forget my nephew came home and he was sitting at my parents' house doing his homework and fidgeting with that doggone fidget spinner. And I'm like, what are you doing? Don't worry about it, TT. I got this. And he's doing his homework with that thing just a spinning, but he needed that kind of balance of distraction while he's actually trying to do his work. So yeah, that makes sense.
Like he's getting out his energy over here. That way his mind can focus on what it needs to on the task at hand. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, very good point. Anybody else? Anybody else have any comments or questions?
To touch back what Haley was saying, like with having ADHD, I have it as well. And I think another thing now, teachers in schools, they're on a thing of, you know, let's follow statistics and what's the best overall for everyone. And I think going back to like what Haley's saying, in those things where they're like, okay, everyone must take down notes or things like that. With learning style, like I said, for me, audio, kinesthetic doing, that works best for me. I don't like to write everything down. I'm one of the people where, you know, hey, oh, I recall that, like I remember hearing that. So that was just like a good point, Haley. I was just that you mentioned that, because I think another thing that's a little bit difficult, you know, a difficult issue as well with, you know, yeah, some people aren't writers, some people aren't, you know, they don't make flashcards and those things like that. And in that way, I guess it's also a question, how do you go about, I hate to say train yourself, but if it's sometimes a requirement, a grade requirement, how do you go with switching yourself to accommodate what's being done if that's not, you're not that type of learner and it's not a benefit for you? It's more of like an aggravation than it would be a benefit. How do you go about that?
Samoa, you tackle that first and I'll jump in.
I'll tackle that first.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say, first of all, in high school, I was a horrible student. Horrible. Nothing. They barely let me out. Okay. I was not a good study person because all that was taught to me was just repeatedly reading. Oh, you don't remember it? Read it again. Well, I would spend hours on one paragraph. And so me finding that combination to how I study and converting it. So the college experience was a totally different thing for me. Like, look, I barely got out of high school. I didn't make the 2.0, y'all, to get out of there, okay? If that tells you anything. But by the time I graduated college, I had a 3.636. So once you unlock that combination of how you can take the information that's given to you in the classroom or, you know, doing through labs, once you unlock that combination to yourself, there's no limit to what you can do and where you can put that information. So as far as finding ways that you can convert that, it's going to come down to trial and error. If you find that you are more of a kinesthetic or tactile learner, you know, maybe you need to find more fidget spinners. I'll be honest, what I found, and this is going to sound a little crazy, but that's okay. I don't mind being a little crazy. But they have those little Velcro strips that you find at the store. If I'm in the middle of doing something, it's a harder surface on one of those Velcro strips. I will run my hand across a Velcro strip, and that is in place of my fidget spinner. So it's something inexpensive, something that I can do, and it keeps my fingers and tactile focused elsewhere, where my brain can actually then focus on what I need to be reading, so that I'm not reading the same passage over and over again. Do you know what I mean?
Can I chime in too before you, Dr. Christie.
And that's not Christy Montgomery, that is Allie Johnson. She is impersonating me right now. She hacked my Zoom account. That is not me, okay?
I was going to introduce myself, but yes, it's Allie. I'm in the admissions. You probably talked to me when you first got started here. But anyway, so my daughter is dyslexic. And let me tell you, that was always a challenge because she would say, Mom, you know, the teachers are talking and I'm not grasping anything they're saying. And same thing, they would say, well, just go back and read the chapter or whatever. And she was like, Mom, I'm not getting it. So thank goodness for Google, because what I would tell her is go out there and Google the material, just type it in and find different ways that you can receive it that works for you. So we loved Khan Academy because her teacher would introduce a subject, you know, some biology class or whatever, and she would just go in and Google it and look at different people teaching that same subject. And whichever one worked for her, you know, she would kind of bookmark that person and try to see if there were other subjects because obviously she received that information better. So you just, like she said, trial and error, you do have to go out there and figure out what works for you. I couldn't always help her because some of the stuff I didn't know. So it was wonderful that she could just go online and look at other resources out there. And then she would go back to the class and say, hey, I found this on such and such, and this helped me. And so she was helping the teacher. So it was great. So yeah, I definitely agree with, you know, trial and error, finding what works for you.
And I'll just kind of round it out with addressing, you know, going back to, I'll say KB, since that's what your title on Zoom is. One of the things that, you know, you talked about not really being a writer and not being a note taker. And yes, you do have some courses where there is a requirement that, you know, and a lot of times it's because that's their instructor's preference that you take notes. They've seen that maybe the students who take notes are more successful than others. But I'll tell you one thing. So you guys know I went to school 3 times. I have a doctoral degree, a master's, and a bachelor's. I was just cleaning out my upstairs storage, and I have every notebook from my bachelor's degree all the way through my doctoral degree. So I pulled out all of those spiral notebooks, and I never even used half of any of them. I may have used a maximum of 20 sheets in all of them because I don't take notes. I just don't. I'll write down little key points or triggers, but the way that I learn the best is if the teacher is up telling me about a theory, like my master's degree was in counseling, and one of the theorists is Rogers, okay? And we're talking about a Rogerian theory. I'm thinking in my mind, person-centered therapy, what's an example of that? And I picture what that looks like in a person, or I picture what that looks like. I picture myself sitting across from a client, and what would that interaction look like? And that's how I remember it. So when I had to sit down for my licensing exam, when I had to sit down and I saw the Rogerian theory, I was thinking about a person, I was thinking about an experience, I was thinking about the concept, and I could answer the question because I associate, and that's in everything that I do. Policies, procedures, Act 666, number 354, I'm associating it with something that helps me to trigger it. If I read it, I'm not going to grab it until I build a connection. And so that's what works for me. And that has helped me to get through. I had to write a book, right? For your doctoral, I had to write a book. I don't like to read all of that stuff. The retention has always been an issue, but that association helps me to connect the author with the writing, with the material, and then make it practical for what I'm trying to produce in my paper. That's what has helped me to get through. That is what has helped me to be successful. Now, when you have that course that requires you to take notes, then you just kind of have to, you know, suck it up, take as many notes as you can. Those notes may never be helpful to you because that's how I was. I would take the notes, but it didn't help me. I had to then still study in a way that was helpful to me. Another thing that I keep hearing recurring is I can't learn in this type of environment. I can't operate in this type of environment. I can't study in this type of environment. So we have to pull can't out of the equation. Okay. And we say, I would prefer not to. I'm not as comfortable. But anything that you put your mind to do, you can do. Listen, and I know I got some faculty on here. I don't like math. I don't like science. And as much as I want to say I can't because I just don't like it, I had to do it to get a degree. And there was no, I saw math at every level of education I was in, all the way to the doctoral degree. I still had to do statistics. So I could not allow, because I don't like this, I'm going to allow it to prevent me from getting to the end goal. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So that word can't has to come out of your vocabulary. Because again, as we're talking about learning, whatever you put in your atmosphere and whatever you put out there, you're going to interpret, you're going to believe, and you're going to operate that way. So for those of you who are challenging in this online environment, if you continue to say, I can't learn in an online environment, you won't learn in an online environment, you won't be successful in an online environment. If you shift that view and say, I prefer not to be in an online environment, but I refuse to allow an online environment to cause me to fail. I refuse. Then you're going to do what you have to do to accommodate, to be successful, to move forward, no matter what the environment looks like. No matter what, you're going to do what it takes to get there. And we're going to help you and support you through it. So if you're struggling, you know, if let's say you put your head to it, you banging your head against the wall with all of your learning challenges and you still can't figure it out, that's where we're here to help. You need to be connected with student services because again, sometimes you can't go to your faculty for that support because they're teaching in a way, they're teaching you in the best way that they know how. In many cases, they're teaching you in the way that they learn. You're not going to find a faculty that teaches in a way that every single student in the classroom gets it because everybody's style is different. So it could be that the faculty member's teaching style does not work for you. The way that they present the material doesn't work for you. So then you have to take what they give you and then make an adjustment. And in student services, our success coaches, our assistant directors can help you navigate that, can give you some tools and some tips and some ideas on how you can navigate around, because we can't expect our faculty to be all things for everyone. They're giving you the material in the best way that they can. Then you have to kind of take it and digest it. It's kind of like when you go to the restaurant and you place an order and you get the plate and you taste it and you say, you know, this needs a little salt. Well, that's the same thing when some people, it's just fine for them. Some people like me want to dash a little salt on there, plop some ketchup on it, because I'm a sauce girl. Plop all that stuff on there. Got to have a little extra, okay? Some people just find the way it's presented, but we're all different. And it's the same way in the classroom. The instructor is just providing you a meal. Here's the plate. You have to do the work to add all the condiments and the seasonings that you need to make it digestible for you, to make it where you can receive it in an adequate way. So you can't put it all on the instructor. And I'm telling you, I had several that I never got it. We never connected on any way, shape, form, or fashion. We never connected at all. But I still had to take that material. I took what I had. Okay, this is what the instructor gave me. Doesn't make sense. Let me go to the book. Ms. Samoa said, go to YouTube, or Ms. Allie said, go to YouTube. I had to create my own meal. Because I know you've been to a restaurant, you just didn't like it at all, right? So what you do, you go home and you fix a sandwich. You go home and you do what you have to do. What you cannot do is tell yourself that I can't do this and I'm just not going to be successful. Dr. Montgomery is never going to accept that. Nope. That's never going to be okay. You have to do the work to say, let me take what I have and make the best of it. Any other questions?
I have class at 1, so I'm going to be leaving, but thank you so much for this.
You're welcome. And we're actually going to be closing out by 1 because we have to.
Okay.
But
I really like the way that you put that into like with the meal and like adding on to it. It makes a lot of sense. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And see, that's, again, like I said, I'm a visual person, so I have to break it down that way for me to understand, right? So, you know, you have to do what works for you, right?
I feel like that you put it in the terms of food, just because, I mean, that's what I, and when you put it into those terms, it clicked better.
Yeah.
It made me think more about it. So.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to do that in your classroom with your studies, is just put it into terms that you will understand. I'll give you a quick example before I'll leave it to Dr. Montgomery, because I can talk forever, y'all, by the way. I struggled with psychology, general psychology, because it's a lot of different theories and things that you're going through. But when I had a discussion with my instructor, we were discussing Pavlov and his dogs, and I was not getting it. So what my instructor did is she brought some Minute Maid concentrated lemonade to class. And every time she rang a bell, you had to take a lick of this concentrated lemonade. And after about 4 or 5 licks, then I understood the concept, because it just had to be put in a different perspective for me. I had to be more physically associated with what was happening. So I was able to then, look, I'll remember Pavlov for the rest of my life, just because, again, I had to take it and put it in a different concept for it to make sense to me.
And I'll tell you guys something funny. When I was in counseling school and I was learning all of those theories, and I told you I have to visualize people, right? Y'all, I diagnosed everybody in my family, everybody. So when we would talk about a certain theory or a certain diagnosis, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's my Uncle Jerome. Or that's my aunt such and such, or that's my cousin. Like, I literally did that. And my parents thought that was hilarious. I was like, y'all laughing, but y'all got a diagnosis too. So don't even think it's funny, because y'all got one too. And so, but that's what I had to do. It worked, you know? And so I'm sitting at the exam and I'm looking at this term, and boop, there's my sister. I'm like, oh, there she is. That's oh, there's my dad, because that's what works. So, you know, you make the adjustment and you make it real. You make it real to you. Make it real.
I got a funny one for you too. I used to look in the mirror and have my little flashcards and watch my mouth move, and I would make it crazy. So if it was a term, like whatever the term was, like if y'all saying psychology, if it was like, I don't know, give me a psychology term, I would just kind of make a funny face with it. So then when I'm taking the test, I would remember myself making a funny face, saying that term, and then it would come to me. So let me tell you about some crazy tricks. I did them all.
Yeah. That's why you guys need to reach out to us, because we will help you. If you can't walk through the front door of the degree, we will help you walk through the side door, the back door, jump through the window. We're going to help you get through this. Whatever you need to do, just make sure you're reaching out to us, and we will definitely, you know, help you and give you some tips on how you could be successful with your particular learning style at this stage. Okay.
Can you
All
tell
right, guys.
ones that's coming up?
I'm sorry.
Before we go, I just wanted to make sure we hit the ones that are coming up.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually pull up, before I close out, the new website that you guys can look at. We're so excited about it. And we will keep you all updated on all of the, see if I can share my screen, all of the different events that are coming up. So I think this should pull it up. Can everybody see this page, the success program page? All right, so this is available on our website. So when you go to the student tab on the North Shore website, you'll be able to click on Success Coach. It will bring you to this page, okay? And right here, you will see our 4 lovely success coaches for our college. You will also see today you're doing How Do I Learn Best? Next week is gonna be effective communication, all right? So make sure that you don't miss it. Ms. Troy Lynn Williams will be our presenter. If you click on that link, it brings you straight into the Zoom, okay? So we're gonna be updating that each week to make sure the full calendar is there, because we'll also have sessions going on in November. Also, if you missed any, like I'm telling you, session 1 and 2 were outstanding. So if you didn't get to see them, you wanna go back and look at those. And then we also have all of the success series that we had in the spring semester. So there's tons of videos out here for you guys to go to just be encouraged. And they're listed by topic, okay? They're listed by topic. So just make sure that you go take a look at them. And yeah, so we're excited about that page. And again, it's under the students tab, and just click on success coaching. You have access. All right.
So much again. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you guys for joining. We hope to see you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Dr. Montgomery, it looks like they like our hair too. I don't know his hair. But yes, any tips are good tips, y'all. Let's share.
I love it. I love our students. They're hilarious.
Right?
Yeah. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end.